For days to find out where Deshaun Watson is headed. I bring in Ian Rappaport, NFL Network insider. Ian, where is Deshaun going next?
Deshaun Watson is expected to be a member of the Cleveland Browns. Yes, the Cleveland Browns. In an unbelievable, stunning turn of events, Deshaun Watson is waiving his no-trade clause only to the Browns. Sources tell me and colleague Tom Pelissero. And that is not all. When this trade is completed, Watson is expected to get a 5-year, $230 million contract that is fully guaranteed. That is $80 million more than the previous record for fully guaranteed money at signing. This deal, negotiated by David Mulugheta of Athletes First, is record-setting, and this move is massive. Of course, it's going to have massive ramifications. And here's how this broke down. The Cleveland Browns were told they were out. That was yesterday. The Carolina Panthers also told they were out, so it was down to the Saints and the Atlanta Falcons, but the Browns never stopped. They offered money. They spoke to Deshaun Watson in a way that kind of pulled on his heart and pulled on his competitive spirit as far as being a team that could win. And now Deshaun Watson headed to the Cleveland Browns.
So, Ian, this leaves a lot of different quarterbacks in limbo, but let's start with Baker Mayfield, who is currently on the Cleveland Browns. Where is he going to go?
Baker Mayfield is now expected to be traded, and he requested a trade yesterday, and the Browns had said that they were not going to accommodate that. They are now going to accommodate that because they have a quarterback. And, you know, as far as the picks the Browns gave up, it's expected to be 3 first-rounders and more for Deshaun Watson. They're going to get some picks back for Baker Mayfield. We're not sure what that is. We will see. He's got a year left in his contract, former #1 overall pick. But these are all... It's important, but these are all smaller things now. The main thing, after a year of waiting, Deshaun Watson has a landing spot and is expected to be the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Ian, so after all of the conversation, we heard about the Panthers, we heard about the Falcons, we heard about the Saints. It wasn't the Browns really until this morning. What got us to this position where Deshaun is now joining the Cleveland Browns?
Most important thing for Deshaun Watson was how quickly can he win football games? And from my understanding, he took a look at the rosters involved, and he decided the Browns were the best. And if you look at player for player, the entire roster, that actually makes a lot of sense. And, you know, look, I mean, this is a team that last year didn't go to the playoffs, but did previously. And, you know, you take a look at where he can go and win right away. Cleveland works. Cleveland works in a lot of ways. And, look, we've been spending the whole time talking about, you know, the Browns being out, and then the Panthers were out, and it was all about the Saints and the Falcons. I think the Browns enjoyed being the stealth team here. They just never stopped recruiting. And now, after a year of turmoil and a year of everything, Deshaun Watson lands with the Cleveland Brown, an unbelievable, stunning upset.
Now, Ian, what about the legal aspects? Will we see Deshaun on the field with the Browns week 1? Will we see him at training camp? Will we see him in the preseason? How long do you think that'll take with the NFL, who still has the opportunity to suspend him if they like?
We will see him in training camp. We will see him in the preseason. We do not know, as of right now, whether or not he will be suspended. My understanding is it is a possibility. And I know teams involved were bracing for it. Teams involved were in some ways expecting it. So if he was suspended, would not be a surprise. This is part of it. But you don't trade for Deshaun Watson for one season. You don't trade for him for a couple games. If he has to miss games, 4, 6, 8, however many, you trade for him for the next 10 years. And that is what the Cleveland Browns did. Rarely, almost never, basically never, are franchise quarterbacks available in their prime for many different circumstances, which we've been over for the last year. Deshaun Watson is, and now he is expected to land with the Cleveland Browns.
So of all these teams that we've been talking about through free agency that continue to ramp up, we thought the Cleveland Browns were done and out, right, Ian? But now with this huge trade, how do they get back in it? This is, of course, the first step.
Well, here's what's going to happen now for the Cleveland Browns. So Deshaun Watson is going to waive his no-trade clause to go to the Browns. That is not all. Now it's on general manager Nick Caserio from the Houston Texans to negotiate the trade. Now, the Browns did make a really strong offer. It was a 3 first-round picks and more offer. I believe a couple more mid-round picks in there. Now it's about simply finalizing the trade. This does not mean the trade has happened. It has not happened. but it is expected to. The thought is that the two sides will be able to work together and finalize it and figure out this deal. And then by that point, Deshaun Watson will be a member of the Cleveland Browns. Browns.
And Ian, he'll be joining Kevin Stefanski, who was, the AP Coach of the Year in 2020, won various Coach of the Year awards in 2020. Things didn't go as planned last season, but how does Deshaun and Kevin Stefanski fit together? Do you know if they have a prior relationship?
The main thing here is Kevin Stefanski, who, like every member of the Cleveland Browns has dealt with Baker Mayfield the last several years, has had his moments. Absolutely. Baker Mayfield has all the potential in the world. But he is not Deshaun Watson. And no disrespect at all to Baker Mayfield, but Deshaun Watson is, from every general manager and talent evaluator that I've spoken with, a pure top 5 quarterback, one of the best in the NFL. This changes everything. And if you're the Cleveland Browns, if you're general manager Andrew Berry, all you want to do is have a franchise quarterback. That's it. That's the number one priority. The Browns now have a franchise quarterback, and it is Deshaun Watson. An absolutely wild turn of events. Baker Mayfield likely to be traded. Several teams still need a quarterback. They're willing to offer a lot for Watson. We'll see what they're willing to offer Baker Mayfield. This is all really crazy, honestly.
All right, Ian, thank you again for everyone joining us. Deshaun Watson, breaking news here, is expected to be traded to the Browns. 5-year, $230 million guaranteed. Tom, you and Ian both broke this down on Twitter from sources. What else can you tell us that Ian hasn't told us yet?
Well, the next step here is to finalize the trade between the Browns and the Texans. Now, what I was told as of a few moments ago is they still need to actually execute this trade now that Deshaun Watson has chosen the team that he wants to waive his no-trade clause to, which is the Cleveland Browns. But the Browns have always been willing to exceed Houston's long-standing price, which is 3 first-round picks plus at least 2 other assets. This will be one of the biggest trades in NFL history in terms of the compensation that the Browns are willing to give up for Deshaun Watson. What happened in the past 48 hours since Deshaun Watson just on Thursday morning contacted the Browns and said he would not be coming to Cleveland. The first of the 4 presumed finalists that he had eliminated was general manager Andrew Berry, and the Browns re-engaged with Houston and said they were willing to do what it takes to make this happen. Well, that includes, as Ian just mentioned, a new contract for Deshaun Watson and a massive trade package that, once again, is one of, if not the biggest trade packages ever exchanged for a single player. It is expected to include 3 first-round draft picks plus at least 2 other assets, potentially more in terms of picks and players. A huge deal now to be finalized, and Deshaun Watson about to become a Cleveland Brown.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Ian. Here is some reaction on social media. We've all been surprised today. LeBron James. Yes, sir, LFG. He's one of the excited players to see Deshaun Watson heading to Cleveland. Kyle Pitts, curveball. Who else do we got up here on Twitter showing their reaction? Cameron Jordan. Guess I know why I didn't get a text back. Yeah, that must be why. None of us got those texts back. Jim, did you get a text back about what's going on in Cleveland? Are you surprised to see Deshaun Watson going not to the Panthers, not to the Saints, not to the Falcons, but to the Cleveland Browns?
Oh, absolutely. I'm surprised after, initially notifying the Browns that they were out of it. But my understanding is that this morning the Browns got word that they were back into it and that this was a possibility. I think the one thing we can't overlook here is the comfort level Deshaun has to have, not only with the coaching staff, but also with the front office, which was where part of his issues were in Houston. And my understanding is that during these talks that Deshaun and his agent had with Browns general manager Andrew Berry, that a relationship started to develop there, and a comfort level started to develop there, and a trust started to develop there. So that was as important to Deshaun, obviously, as going to a team where he would have a chance to win. And I think you can't overlook that fact.
Yeah, Jim, and Baker Mayfield, what happens with him next? We've seen his emotions very up close and personal. He's, posted things on social media about what he feels like. It kind of seemed like even days ago that he was done with his organization, even though they decided not to grant him the trade. Of course, now they will. But what's next for Baker Mayfield in this league?
Yeah, Bridget, I would say, first off, don't get me started on Baker Mayfield and the way he's handled this. But having said that, obviously the Browns now will move Baker Mayfield. He will no longer be a Cleveland Brown. The question is where. And at this point, we don't know what's involved in the trade package in terms of between Houston and Cleveland at this point. But there are teams out there that obviously still need quarterbacks. And now the Browns sit in a good situation where they can seek to move Baker and potentially recoup some of the draft picks that they will lose in making this trade with Houston. Unless, of course, Baker were included in the deal to Houston, which at this point I don't know. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yes, I think it's fair to say and obvious to say Baker has played his last game for the Cleveland Browns.
All right, Jim, thank you so much with that insight. Again, Deshaun Watson is heading to the Browns. He's expected to be traded to the Cleveland Browns and waive his no-trade waive his no-trade. 5 years, $230 million guaranteed is what that contract is expected to be. I want to welcome in Aditi. Aditi, you cover the Cleveland Browns. You cover the AFC North. What exactly was your reaction when you heard about this? And just a few days ago, we're talking about Baker Mayfield wanting out of Cleveland. They say, no, you're staying with us. And now things are completely different this Friday morning.
Bridget, I'm wearing a T-shirt and doing my expense reports. And all of a sudden I see this and I'm texting what in all capital letters to just about everybody I know. So here's what I can tell you. There are indeed, as Ian and Tom Pelissero are telling us, other assets involved in this trade. Baker Mayfield, I am told by a source within the organization, is not one of those assets. So just as Jim Trotter said, yes, Baker Mayfield will no longer play for the Cleveland Browns, but he is not necessarily headed to the Texans as part of this deal. As for Deshaun Watson, what I was told is that, yes, our reporting was indeed correct, that he had passed on the Browns. There was all sorts of speculation. Perhaps he didn't want to play in a loaded AFC. Perhaps it was the cold weather. But this morning, he did indeed have a change of heart, and he reached back out to the Browns. And the reason I was told for that change of heart was because the Browns have the most complete roster and give him, in his mind, the greatest chance to win. But Bridget, as you just said, what a turn of events. We went from yesterday, what looked like the most enormous amount of drama with Baker Mayfield begging out of Cleveland, all this conversation about whether the Browns had actually fully kept Baker as apprised of every single step of this courtship as they could have, and whether that really hurt Baker Mayfield's feelings, if he needed to perhaps get past that and pull an Aaron Rodgers. And now here the Browns get the player that they clearly felt was that upper-level, top-tier, top-flight quarterback that was worth potentially risking Baker Mayfield's feelings over. Of course, but Bridget, we can't gloss over any of the civil cases that Deshaun Watson is still facing. The Browns are saying that they have done an enormous investigation and that they would not have even pursued Watson if they did not feel comfortable with the results of their investigation. And of course, that meeting in person was a huge key piece of that.
Thank you, Aditi, for your insight into that. We know you're going to be covering them, and you have that insight into Kevin Stefanski and how all this is going to work out. We still are not sure where Baker Mayfield will go, but it'll be interesting. Houston and they'll play each other this year.
Well, for sure. I mean, that's all part of the fun. But as Tom is saying, if there's anything we've learned this week, let's just wait until things are official. So we still need to actually see the trade executed, make sure that everything goes off as planned. And then, as we just referenced, we don't know if the league will or will not be handing down any sort of suspension for Deshaun Watson, because again, there are still some unresolved issues as per those civil cases. So as for fitting in the offense, what do we know? We know that Kevin Stefanski is still going to call the plays. We know that Alex Van Pelt is still the offensive coordinator. We know that Nick Chubb and the run game are what ultimately drive this offense. And there's a new toy in town. That, of course, is Amari Cooper. But the Browns are still looking for a slot receiver, perhaps to replace Jarvis Landry. There's still some building to be done here. Again, a lot of questions pulled off by the Browns when it seemed dead. And this idea, Bridget, that we shouldn't let go of is that the Browns are indeed a desirable destination. Just think about that for a minute. Deshaun Watson had his choice of 4 suitors, and he chose the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, Aditi, that's why we call it the best reality show on TV, right? It's not Bravo. It's right here on NFL Network. Thank you so much for your insight into that. This is a look at the current AFC North starting quarterbacks. We now have Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson going to the Browns again, Lamar Jackson, Mitch Trubisky. We've been talking about the AFC, but the AFC North here, we've been talking about the AFC West earlier this week, too, with some stellar quarterbacks. Now I want to welcome in Ian and Tom Pelissero. Welcome